if you could like point out the difference between like an unborn fetus and like a born human child, if you could like point out the difference that wouldn't matter in the situation as to why you would get parental obligations to one but not the other, that would be great.
Are you asking me to point out a difference between a fetus and a born child?
Yeah, I'm basically like a fetus that's like 38 weeks in, it hasn't been born.
I think there are plenty of differences between a fetus and a born child. One of them, the majority of them being, that the fetus is relying on the mother. At least, in terms of Roe v. Wade and Casey, it established that, when it's viable, which I think is a perfect line to have for abortion. Prior to viability, it's dependent on the mother. And obviously, you can make the argument that fetuses or children outside the womb are dependent on their mother, but it's not quite the same. And again, I would like to reiterate that most of my view on abortion not only comes from a moral standpoint, but it comes from a constitutional standpoint. I believe the 14th Amendment, along with plenty of other amendments that could sway it that way, I believe the Constitution generally is pro-choice, to put it nicely, and that's the majority of where my view comes from.
Okay, yeah. So if we could like, I don't know, escape like the Constitution for now, and like go into more of a philosophical conversation. You did point out
Why?
that. Oh, sorry. What?
Why would we escape the Constitution? Like, as I always say, when people come on here and want to have like a moral discussion on abortion, it's like, it's nice. It's really lovely to have a moral discussion on abortion, but it doesn't really matter whether you're, the moral conversation. What matters more is it constitutional or not. So, we can talk night and day about the morality of it or the philosophical nature of abortion and try to, pull these mind games and things like that, but it's not all that productive. So that's why I'm very insistent talking about the constitutionality of it. If we're going to talk about abortion on a political live stream, it's not a philosophical live stream. It's not a moral live stream. We talk about politics and law in here. That's why I'm very insistent we talk about the Constitution.
Okay, yeah. So if we were to like, I don't know, talk about abortions as a whole, we could like supposedly talk about abortions that happen outside of the U.S. where the Constitution does not apply. We could even talk about instances in the U.S. before like the Constitution was established. I feel like the idea of like appealing to the Constitution of how it is and is how it should always be. I think a little fallacious because I don't see like a reason why the Constitution would be like an end all say all.
You don't see why in this current system, talking about the Constitution and seeing it as an end all see all might be beneficial.
No, because I feel like the Constitution
might get amended anytime soon.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? The last part.
Do you think the Constitution is going to get amended anytime soon?
I don't think so. Like anytime soon, but I don't see like a reason why we can't do it if it's like fallacious or like logically inconsistent.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Even if the Constitution is fallacious or logically inconsistent, do you think that Democrats or Republicans are going to be able to amend the Constitution, given how difficult it is to do on the topic of abortion? Not a chance in hell. So I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Why would we talk about the Constitution being end all be all, and why focus on that? Well, it matters. That's why the Constitution matters, and we saw it when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. So and they were not talking about morals. They were not having a moral conversation. The Supreme Court was having a legal conversation. So again, I love talking about the morals of abortion and things like that. It's a very interesting conversation, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And to your point about talking about abortions overseas, that's great. But this is an American politics live stream, and we can talk about abortion overseas and how it's legal in plenty of modern countries and how it's illegal in plenty of more third world countries and things like that. But again, it doesn't really matter in terms of the United States.
Okay. So if I were to like, I don't know, and you don't have to answer this question. Like if I were to ask you your thoughts on abortion, like outside of the U.S., you'd be like pro-life, right? Because like there's no constitution to justify your position.
No, again, as I said, my views on abortion are both moral and constitutional, right?
Okay, so they are moral in some. So they are moral.
I have morality. Again, I've never said that. The topic of abortion doesn't involve morals, right? When you're forming your own belief on abortion, it absolutely involves your morals and how you see the world and your ethics, right? But your formation of a personal opinion on abortion, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because it's more about what the Constitution says, but more about what the laws say than your morals on it. So I know, abortion is absolutely a moral thing, but in terms of how does that actually matter? Unless you're going to become a Supreme Court justice one day, not really.
So if I were to like ask you a hypothetical and like where let's just say the Constitution wasn't what it is right now. There is definitely a Constitution, and it was established at the same time. However, the Constitution excluded like I don't know, a certain race of people like black people to like permit slavery, like because we couldn't use the Constitution to like justify the abolishment of slavery. Slavery would still be okay right now. And if I were to ask you, hey, is slavery okay right now? I feel like your answer would probably have to like appeal to the Constitution.
What are you talking about?
So like your morals, like you're disregarding morals in like the conversation, and like you're referring to like the Constitution, like the Constitution this, the Constitution that. But like if I asked you like a hypothetical and where the Constitution was like excluding a certain race of people to like where it's permissible to enslave these certain types of people, and then like I don't know, years and years in the future where it's still happening, and I were to ask you, hey, is slavery okay? Should we do something about it? It seems like your answer like your response would have to be appealing to like the Constitution, saying like, well, the Constitution says it's okay. We got to do it.
I don't believe that the hypothetical would work if the Constitution said something about it, but I don't. I don't believe the Constitution permits any of those things.
I never said it did. I said
So
hypothetically it does.
aware, but the hypothetical again is kind of irrelevant, right? And it's also a little bit of a straw man, but I won't get into that. You know, again, as I said, like the legality matters so much more than the morals in this term, in terms of like actually what's going to happen. Um, that's just me though. I think it's wonderful to have like hypotheticals, and as I said, it's great, it's wonderful, it's so mentally engaging, excuse me, intellectually engaging to have these conversations. But at the end of the day, what it doesn't really achieve much. It's more, in my view, it's more beneficial to convince someone of the constitutionality of abortion rather than the morality of abortion.
Right, but you'd also have to like, if you're proving that the constitutionality of abortion was like valid, you'd have to then prove why the Constitution itself was valid, not just the argument to the Constitution. You'd have to prove why the Constitution is valid as far as like morals.
I No, not necessarily. You don't have to. I don't have to prove why the Constitution is valid within morals. I think the Constitution legally is valid. And then again, and in many ways, maybe this is fortunate or unfortunate, but the laws supersede morals. Um, and a lot of maybe some laws are crafted morally, but at the end of the day, it's what the law says.
It's what the law says. So like we have like a conflict, right? And your method of conflict resolution is reciting like I don't know, a certain source. And like you could cite this source, but like you'd have to prove why this source would be like dependent, because like if I was talking to you and I was like, say, well, you see, a group of us high schoolers, we came up with like a group, and like we have our own little constitution in that group. I could cite this source, but like it wouldn't be moral. Like I wouldn't have to like um yeah, basically I'd have to prove why this is like a valid source as far as like morality, why it would be like ethical, and like if I were to keep citing this specific source and like appealing to it, then it would get us nowhere.
Well, the Constitution that you and your high school group has formed is a lot less relevant than the Constitution of the United States. I think we can both agree on that, right?
Okay, what
Um,
if it wasn't like just high schoolers? What if it was like a group of actual like a broad term of citizens? Let's just say 100 citizens, just like random Americans.
yeah. Well, they formed a constitution, it would still be a lot less relevant than.
Okay,
Uh,
so what if like instead of 100, we extended this number to like I don't know, 100,000?
it would still be less relevant than the United States Constitution. The Constitution, the United States Constitution, supersedes any other document, right?
All right, why?
Um, so you can have every single citizen can. That's just the way the government works. That we get our legitimacy from the Constitution. Different branches of government get their legitimacy from the Constitution. So
Within
every single American can form a. In terms of the laws, the American Constitution will always supersede that.
Yeah, so why would it supersede without any like moral grounding?
It's just the way that the government works. That's the law. We have laws for a reason, and I'm not quite sure how better to say it than that's just the way it is. That's the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ruled that the Constitution on plenty of different amendments to the Constitution, and the states have agreed to follow the Constitution and such. And it's no better way to say it than that.
Right. I don't see why. Like I see no grounding for why the Constitution is like an ultimate factor for why we should abide to like specific things that it says. Like the Constitution being the Constitution is not justification for why we should follow the Constitution.
Listen, if you don't like the way that the government works, then I don't know what to tell you.
All right.
Legislator and change it. I guess become a legislator. Try and push for an amendment if you don't like it's the way it works.
Right. I don't know. I think I'll hop out.